Mushrooms. Mushrooms are some of my favorite things to paint. I don't know why. I don't enjoy eating them. My husband is allergic to them, so I never have them, but I think they're so beautiful, and there are so many combinations of like shapes and sizes and colors, and they're just super fun to paint. So we're gonna do a sort of illustrative take on mushrooms today. We're not gonna try to make them look extremely realistic, but if that is what you want to learn, I do have a mushroom painting as the final project of my second watercolor class. This is that project. So that class is called the Hangupables, and it is all about painting things that you would want to hang on your wall. It is very friendly in terms of like, I walk you through every single step. So even if you're relatively new to painting, you can still do it. But if you're looking for like the basics of watercolor, starting with, you know, how to mix colors, how to use wet on wet, that kind of thing, then you're gonna want the watercolor essentials class before this one. But there is a mushroom painting in the Hangupables. For today's painting, we're gonna use a sketchbook. If you don't wanna use a sketchbook or don't have a sketchbook, you can just use watercolor paper. That will work great. And then we're gonna use my 24 color essential palette. If you don't have this many colors, it's gonna be fine. You can use whatever colors you have. I'm gonna be using round brushes for this. I have a variety of sizes here. I have a 10, 8, 6, and 2. But if you only have one round brush, that'll be okay. I just have these out because I'm not exactly sure which ones I'm gonna use. We're also gonna use some fine liner pens on top of the watercolor. So these do not need to be waterproof. Any kind of pen will work. I have a size 0.6 and a brush pen. I'm also gonna use a green marker to put some little swirly, what are those called? The fiddle leaves? They're like little sprouts that look like a swirl, that look very cute with mushrooms. We're gonna draw some of those with a marker. So a green marker or two will be good. We also might put in some white details with a white jelly roll pen, or we may use some white gouache, or we may use some Dr. Martin's bleed proof white, but you'll wanna have a little bit of white if you wanna add like those white dots that you find on top of mushrooms. We are not gonna draw out our mushrooms ahead of time, but I know some of you are less comfortable with that. So I did draw out some mushroom shapes for you, which I will provide. I'll provide this line drawing so you at least have some idea of like some different mushroom shapes, so that when you are putting your paint down, or if you want to draw them out first, you kind of have a little bit of a guide to go by. But when I tell you that mushrooms come in all different shapes and sizes, I mean, it is vast. So these are just some ideas. You do not have to stick with these. We're gonna keep these super fun and expressive. We are not trying to make perfect mushrooms that all look the same. So if your mushrooms don't look exactly like mine, do not panic. And if they look a little rough, like you're like, those lines don't look perfect or exactly the way I want them, we are gonna do pen details over the top. And the pen fixes many, many things. So I don't want you to panic. I want you to enjoy this and have fun, because for me, painting mushrooms is like one of the easiest, most enjoyable things to paint. And I hope it will be for you too. Okay, so we are not drawing these out, like I said, but I do want to give you sort of an idea of which shape we're going to do. So we are going to start with this guy right here, and I'm just going to kind of put him up in the corner. Also, I would like to apologize for my blue fingers. I was trying something with food coloring. Food coloring does not like to come off of your skin, so sorry about that. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna do this one. So we're gonna keep it kind of about this size up in this corner. And I think to start with, we'll go with a red one. You see a lot of red mushrooms. So I'm just gonna make a little puddle here of red. And I'm just gonna kind of expressively draw out this mushroom shape. So there's the original line, and then we're just gonna kind of go like that and fill it in. Make it like that. And let's make this come like this. So you can see it is not exactly shaped like my little line drawing, but it's kind of sort of similar. So once you've got that shape in there, you can go back in and you can add some more paint if you'd like to make it darker. You can even grab a little bit of orange. We could add some orange in there to get some variation. We could dip into our other reds to change it up a little bit. That's the thing with mushrooms, is you really can make them however you want to make them in the moment, but it's very, very simple. Now, this mushroom has sort of the gills down here. It looks like a skirt to me. But we're not going to draw, or we're not going to paint on the stems until the caps dry. Because if we painted this part on right now, it would all just kind of run together and it would all be, you know, mixed up. So I want to keep them separate. So I'm going to start just with this, and then once this is dry, I'll go back and add in that bottom part. Let's do one like right here that's going to be like, let's see. We'll do a kind of small one that's like kind of like this. And I think I want this one to be blue. Are there blue mushrooms? I think so. There are going to be here because I'm going to paint it that way. So we're just gonna do whatever we feel like, whatever is calling to us to paint. So I've just got some blue here, and I'm just gonna make one of these little guys, and I kind of don't want to paint it right on the seam. So I'm gonna go right next to the seam. So there's that guy. And again, you can go back and you can darken it up a little bit if you want to by adding more. You could add some different blues or some greens in there if you want to. But that's, in fact, let's do another one. We'll give him a buddy. Let's do another one right here that's like maybe slightly bigger. So these guys are brothers or cousins, or they're relatives for sure. They are for sure related. I did not get this one quite as there we go. A little bit rounder there. Okay. I'm just gonna dip into some more of that blue here. So there's those guys. These guys are very cute. I think we'll do, see, I got a little bit of red right here. If you spray that with a little bit of your water and then just use your paper towel. Red is very staining as a rule, but you can lift it a little bit. Now let's do one down here. And I think for this one, I want it to be yellow. So let's just mix up a little puddle of yellow here. And maybe we'll put a little bit of this darker yellow, this yellow ochre in there. And for this one, let's do this one with the with the pointy cap. So this one is gonna be just like this. I'm not trying to make this bottom line super even. Hopefully I left myself enough room here. We may have to put the stock part off to the side a little bit on this guy. That's okay. That's part of what we love about mushrooms, is that we can do whatever we want. I think I want to put a little bit of this orange color in here too. All right, so there's that one. And for this one, let's do this one. So this is like when they kind of flip the other way. I don't know if this is a specific kind of mushroom or if this is just something that happens like in the growth process when they get older, where they kind of turn inside out. For this one, I'm gonna mix a color. So one of my favorite colors to mix with this set is like a sort of teal green. So if you take some indigo or whatever your darkest blue is, and you mix in whatever green has the most blue. So for me in this set, it's lake green. It will give you this sort of teal blue color that I think is really pretty. So for this one, we're gonna paint it kind of dimensionally, where we're gonna be able to see sort of inside of it. But to do this the simplest way, we're actually gonna paint the whole thing. And then we'll come back and we'll add the dimension by painting more in to this area up here, which may not make sense currently, but if you stick with me, I think it will make sense as we go on. So for now, we're gonna paint this sort of, it's almost like a tulipy, like an open tulip shape. And it is gonna just come down like this. And then it's gonna have a sort of wavy edge to it. And I think that looks good. Let's do this one next. We're gonna have to probably make it smaller, slightly smaller than this. And I'm gonna add some orange into my red because I want to make this one orange. So we're going all out. We're going with all the colors here. So I just mixed some orange into my red. So I've got this sort of rusty orange color, and let's put this guy in. So he's gonna be sort of longer. And all right. Yes, that looks good. Okay, so let me just make him just slightly fatter there. All right, I'm just drying off my brush. I've got a little bit of a puddle here, so I think that looks good. And this one, this is this guy. So I'm gonna put him in here, right in this spot. And then we can kind of go back in and fill in with some of these little tiny guys. So what color do we want to make this one? Let's make this one a light green color. I'm gonna mix some green into this yellow Okay, so this is a sort of like earthy green color. So any kind of light green. So when we paint this one, we're gonna do the same thing, same concept as this one, where we're gonna paint the whole top of the mushroom, and then we'll go back and add the details with this inside part and the stem. So this one is gonna be sort of like this. So it's almost like a triangle. And we'll just make this side come up like that. So this one is kind of looking similar to this one. So I'm just gonna round this off, which is not exactly the way that it's drawn in our line drawing, but I like the idea of all of them being kind of different. I'm gonna switch to a size 6. And we're gonna make some of these little tiny guys. And I think I want the little tiny ones to be red. I'm gonna clear off some of this orange. And I'm just gonna make a spot, because if I do it on the other side, you won't be able to see it. So, okay. We've got some red, and so the small guys are just basically triangles. They are pretty pointy, and they kind of grow like clustered together. So we're gonna do several of them. We'll do several of them all together. Let's do one more right there. I'm going to speed this up because I just do the same thing in 2 other spots. So anywhere that you feel like you want to add more of these tiny guys, feel free to go ahead and do that. At this point, we have to let this dry, totally dry, and then we will come back and we'll put in the stems. Now that this is dry, the first thing that I want to do is I want to add our dimension to this mushroom and this mushroom. And to do that, we're gonna go back to those same colors that we used for this part, and we're just gonna use those same colors again. So if you go back to that blue-green or whatever color you chose for this mushroom, then we're just gonna add in a line here, and that is gonna make it look like we're looking into the center of that mushroom. So that's a very easy way to do that. We're gonna do the same thing with this one. So I'm just cleaning off my brush. I'm gonna come back down to this green, and if we look at this one, we want this one to be on the bottom. So we're gonna have this one sort of come up like that. And you can make it as big or as small as you want it to be. That opening, this one I got kind of big, but it's gonna be fine. And then I guess, are we gonna do, I had painted this one sort of that way too. So we can, I do not have this color, so we would have to, let's see, that was some of this orange. And I think there was a little bit of red in it maybe. Let But we'll just put in a little line down here too for this one. And that just gives a little bit of dimension to that one as well. And now we can go ahead and start working on the stems for some of these other ones that are dry while these guys are wet, because we need them to dry. So I think for the stems, you can just kind of choose what colors you think will go with whatever color mushrooms you have. I'm gonna clear off a space here just because I want to be able to see how saturated my colors are. And I'm just going to pick a little bit of Payne's Gray. And I'm going to do this one, that was this one, sort of with this little skirt thing, the gills. And we want to make sure that we sort of leave space. So I'm just gonna have it come down kind of like this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and paint in the stem too. And it's just gonna kind of come down here. How long do we want it to be? And they can be kind of wonky too. I think I want it a little bit wider. There we go. For this one, I'm gonna keep my stem just pretty skinny up here at the top. And then have it get wider as it gets down to the bottom. Let's go to the brown. We'll go to the brown again and maybe add in some of this reddish brown to get a slightly different color. And let's do these guys. So these guys, theirs are pretty like fat, I feel like. Maybe a little, I'm gonna add a little bit of Payne's Gray in here to this one. And then same thing for his brother. For these little guys, I think I'm gonna use this green that I already have. And I'm gonna make their stems pretty skinny. And you can kind of make them curve too. They don't have to be totally straight. I'm kind of wishing I had made those guys curve. Oh well. Let's have this one come like that. We're gonna have all these guys kind of coming in towards the same point. I think, well, this guy, we did this top part, so we can definitely do his stem. I'm just gonna go to the gray, and I'm gonna make his go pretty wonky. Like so. I'm just adding a little bit more paint in there. And spreading that out just a little bit. This guy's probably gonna be my favorite. I can already tell. I just think he's pretty cool looking. Okay, are these guys, yeah. Okay, these guys are dry too. So I think for this one, we want to do the gills again, right? So we're gonna just come down again let's make this one a little bit longer. And then he's actually gonna come off the page. So I'm keeping just a little bit of separation here so that you can kind of tell what's going on. But I've got a little bit too much water on my brush, I think. There we go. I kind of want it to, I want it to flare out more. He's pretty cool too. I like the dimension that we gave to these three. I think it looks pretty neat. So, you know, this, I have said this before, but that's really, for me, what a sketchbook is all about. It's about figuring out that, like, I like this look. So then if I wanted to do a more finished piece, I would go for something like that, like something that, another mushroom that sort of has that look to it. Now I know that. I learned that in my sketchbook. That is the benefit of painting in sketchbooks, is that we can learn these things. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so I just did a bunch of different browns in here in this one, and I made his stem kind of wonky, kind of like this one, because again, I just sort of discovered that I like that. I like the wonkiness of the stem. I'm just gonna connect this a little bit better here. But again, we're not being too fiddly with it because we know that we're gonna go over it with pen details. So this is very fun to me. This page is very fun. I'm liking it a lot, actually. I like the color combination, and I think in general, it's cute. I do think I want to put another one of the little triangle guys here. I had a little bit of that green in my brush, so you can see it made my red darker, but that's fine. Okay, yes. So we're going to leave this to dry. It needs to be totally dry, and then we can go over it with our pen details. So this is all dry. I am just gonna add one little stem here for this guy with my paint, and then that's it with the paint. So you can put your paints to the side and go ahead and grab your pens. We're gonna start with the fine liner pen. So that, for me, I'm gonna use this 0.6, which is a fairly small point, but not like teeny tiny. And really, we're just gonna outline the mushrooms for the most part, and maybe add some little lines here and there. But this is really just intended to kind of give it a more finished look. I think it also kind of adds to the illustrative quality. And if your pen doesn't, like, if your pen lines don't match up exactly with your paint, that's okay. That is part of the charm of it. So don't stress about that. And actually, if there are any shapes that you're just not crazy about, you can kind of refine them with the pen as you go. So I try not to be too picky or precious about this part of it. Okay, so this one, the stem is pretty dark. You can add a few little little lines here and there if you want to. You might be able to see it better on this one if we just do some really simple straight lines. Let's go ahead and we'll do this one. And his stem, do a couple little lines on his stem. And you can make a few darker lines at the top to indicate a bit of a shadow where the mushroom cap would be casting a shadow on the stem. So you can do some darker lines up at the top like that if you want to. I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up again because this is just outlining and adding some of those little lines into the stems. Okay, that looks good. So at this point, we're gonna switch to a brush pen and just put a little bit of ground in. With the brush pen, I just think the brush pen is nice for doing just a little bit of a thicker, more expressive line. And you can decide, like, do you wanna put some grass in there? Do you wanna go in front of the mushroom or behind it? But it's just some little tiny lines to just indicate where the ground is here. And more little ground lines. The last two things to do are we can put in some of the little sprout things that I was talking about, the little fiddle leaf thing, and they basically just look like swirls like that. So this pen, these are brush pens. They're called Brushables. They're I can link these. I feel like I've had these for a while. I don't remember how expensive they were, but they have lasted forever. And the nice thing is they do have the double brush, so you get two colors. Let's do one right here. But aren't they kind of cute? Am I delusional? Maybe, I don't know. I think they're cute. I just continue with the delusion and continue to create more of these little spiral sprout thingies. And I did end up grabbing a different marker that had a slightly different green, a little bit of a darker green. Again, these are totally optional. One last thing, and that is to do some very small white highlights. So this is Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I am just going to dip straight into there, and let's go ahead and do some dots on this big red mushroom for sure. I added dots to several of the mushrooms, and the thing with the dots is to just keep in mind that you want to make the dots different sizes. Like, they should all be kind of random looking, and make sure that you do some that are up close to the edges of the mushrooms because that'll help make it look more natural. Some little highlights, just a tiny little line here and there on the stems. Maybe we'll do a few on these guys. I don't want to go too crazy with dots. I think it's time for me to put the paintbrush down and stop before I do too much. I think we're calling this one done. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. I hope you guys are happy with yours too, and that maybe this has sparked a love of mushrooms for you like I have, because when I don't know what to paint, I can always paint mushrooms, and they always make me happy, and they're always fun, and I hope they'll be the same for you.